Hi everyone, this is Raymond Wood at the Raymond Wood podcast. We are super excited to do another episode. Now I'm with my very good friend, Mr. Kai Henning. How are you, Kai?
I'm very good, Ray. How are you?
Very good. Now we'll explain to all our listeners, anyone who's listening in and anyone who's watching on YouTube, a little bit of a backstory. So we've been involved with you and your football, I think it's for 3 or 4 years. Yes. And when you first come to us, how did you first meet with me and how did you first meet with Euro Football Star?
So we first met at some trials. You did some training
Objective testing?
Yes. Yeah. And yeah.
And it went from there, didn't it?
Yeah.
Now we'll get straight into it because I know anyone who's watching this on YouTube, and if you're not watching it on YouTube, you might want to start maybe watching some of our podcast episodes because you'll actually see that Kai Henning's wearing a beautiful jacket from Steven Gerrard's Academy in Liverpool in England. So you've been at Steven Gerrard's Academy for how long now?
2 years now.
2 years. And you were just telling me you got some good news that you got extended by another year.
Yes, I'm staying there another year. They've asked me to come back for another year. So yeah.
That's fantastic. Now, we'll go all the way back to the start of the journey because when we got you through our objective testing, it was just on the cusp of coming out of COVID. And also it was when we were just putting our professional player pathway program together, where we wanted to start to open up opportunities for boys and girls like yourself who wanted to play professional football but didn't know how to do it or even how to maybe even fix your game to be good enough to go over. So we first done objective testing with you, and I remember when we seen you in the testing and we were very impressed with the results. And I remember a conversation with Mum, and your mum was saying that, yeah, you definitely love an opportunity to go overseas. And we had a look at one of your games, and I'll never forget it. And you were playing at the time for, I believe it was Redlands
United, yes.
Yeah. And I'd worked previously for a little bit of time with Redlands as well, so I know the area and the club really well. And there's a lot of great players down there. One of the big things, do you remember the one thing that we corrected in your game that really helped you with your wide play?
No, but I have a guess? I'd say stretching the pitch maybe.
Yeah, stretching the pitch and making it big and wide. I never forget having a conversation, I think it was with your dad, and explaining that sometimes it's just 1 or 2 really subtle changes to someone's game can be the difference, with all due respect, in playing an MPL in Australia or maybe going on and playing at a professional academy or a pro club in Europe or the UK. And I never forget, about 4 weeks after we made the change with your game, your dad sent me a video of you where you stretched the pitch big, you took your first touch out in front of you, you attacked the byline, you crossed the ball back to zone 14.
Yes.
And then you set up the goal.
Yeah.
And I never forget, like, the smile on my face when your dad shared that video with me, because it was like, they're actually listening, and he's actually listened to the one little bit of information I give him. And I knew from that moment, one of the big things people always say to me, Ray, how do you make it to be a professional football player? I think one of the biggest things is actually listening, because I'm a big believer in God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, and we should listen more. And I think you listened, and you're so coachable, and you took that point on, and it felt like within a blink of an eye, all of a sudden, you were in Liverpool and you were at a professional academy playing football.
Yeah.
Did it feel that quick for you as well? So when you were at Redlands, and we then took you on a trip to the UK, and that was your first experience in England. And just remind me of the trip and the tour. Where were some of the things that we took you to and the places we visited? And
so we went around about 11th of September 2 years ago. Yeah. We went over to the UK. We went around towards Bolton Wanderers, their academy. We went to Steven Gerrard Academy. We went to Tranmere Rovers Academy. We went down to watch England versus Germany in Wembley in London, which was an amazing opportunity. And yeah.
It was good. It was good. So one of the big things that we do for our listeners listening in, we do sort of what we call just our normal tours, where it's just a bit of a touch and a feel and a look just to see what England's like and what Europe's like. When you actually had that first experience and you got to go to England and you got to see England play Germany at Wembley, what was that like?
Oh, the level's just different. The atmosphere was amazing. It's just a wonderful experience.
It is the atmosphere is completely, it's unparalleled. The only way I can explain it, I think, for any of our listeners and followers who live in Australia, if you've ever been to like a state of origin game, it's like that, but times 5 still. it's still another level again. And I remember that England-Germany game really well. I think it was a 3-3.
Yes. Kai Havertz scored 2, yeah.
In the last like 5 minutes or something. And we were predicting it, weren't we? We were having a go at England's defence and the shape, and it was like, I think they were 3-1 up, and you could sense Germany we're gonna come back into the game. So just a little bit of a background on you and mum and dad. So there's a bit of a mix.
Yes.
So where were you born?
I was born in South Africa, in Durban, South Africa.
And so you got a South African passport?
Yeah, actually, I think I've just dropped it now.
You just dropped it?
For Australian. I've done my Australian citizenship not long ago.
And then you've been in Australia prior to being born in Africa for how long was it?
So I was in South Africa from born all the way to 12. Yeah. And then I moved from South Africa to Melbourne for 2 years. Yeah. And then from Melbourne to Brisbane for 3 years.
And then dad's from South Africa?
Yes, dad's family's from South Africa.
Yeah, and mum's English?
Mum's British, yes.
Yeah, British. So that means you got access to British passports as well?
I do, yes.
So that obviously helps you a little bit with living and staying in the UK. And that's one of the big things that we get is love to trial in the UK or Europe, but we don't think we can because of the passport situation. And that's one of the big things, like with our partners that we work with, like Steven Gerrard's Academy. It doesn't matter if you don't have a British passport, because through the education route, we can get visas for players to stay and live for up to 2 years. And obviously, you being at Steven Gerrard's Academy, you'll obviously have seen a lot of international students who don't have British passports and are able to play and train and study and give it a good go. So we'll move forward to your opportunity. So you went on the tour with us for a couple of weeks. We always identify players when we go on the tours if we believe they've got a chance to make it and if they show that attitude and that coachability, and you definitely did. And we were super excited. We put you in front of Steven Gerrard's Academy, Tranmere Rovers. A couple of opportunities come up, and then at the end, I think it was even before the end of the trip, I think you received the offer, didn't you?
Yeah.
To sign with Steven Gerrard's Academy. So obviously, I remember them conversations, having mum and dad on the phone to me, and I was in the Bolton Wanderers stadium, and mum was all at a fluster, and I said, I told you, I promise you we were going to steal him on you. We were going to take him to the UK. So what was the feeling like when you found out that Steven Gerrard's Academy wanted you to sign for them?
Oh, it was an amazing feeling. It's almost like a dream come true. It's like one step closer to becoming a professional footballer. It's an amazing feeling.
And that's one of the things that we say, especially with the boys as well, in the boys game. Like, we think the earlier players go across the better because, I mean, you're going to allude to in a minute. It's like, just for our listeners listening, can you explain what the levels are like when we just talk about even like the players that you're playing and training against compared to what you can experience maybe in South Africa or even in Australia as well?
So, in the academy, it's good because all the boys are from different parts of the country or different parts of the world, so they all have a different play style, which is good, and they all come together to adapt to how obviously the Steven Gerrard Academy wants to play. And the teams we play against are a very good level. They look like they've been together for 2 or 3 years, so they're very good. Yeah.
And the quality is really high. I mean, it's not only the international players, but you get a lot of the local boys from Liverpool, where I grew up and I'm from. And you're probably privy to it now, you've been there for a long time. Some of those boys are tough, but also the good players as well.
Yeah. So some of those boys are obviously were at Liverpool's academy or City's academy a while back, but they're very good, yeah. So
you got your opportunity to move to SGA, and in your first 12 months, you stay at the accommodation at Steven Gerrard's Academy. And you get fed there and get watered there. You doing schooling as well?
I did my BTEC in sports management. I've just finished it now, and I've done all of GCSEs for English and maths.
Amazing. That is fantastic. So we'll talk about the accommodation side of things and the food. Now, one of the big things is when I went around looking at all the different clubs that we were trying to partner with and the academies, one of the things I used to always look at was, would I send one of my daughters here? And if I would, then obviously that meant we would work with them. Just from when I first went into Penny Lane at SGA, but then also like hearing things like the chef at SGA was an ex-chef at Everton Football Club, and seeing the quality of the food. Can you just explain again to our listeners, and for any players and mums and dads who are maybe keen to go down this route, like what was your experience and what's it been like with the accommodation and the food?
Yeah, so I think food is very important if you want to become a professional footballer. You need to be able to eat right. You need to be able you need to see what you can't eat and what you can eat. And lucky enough, in the Steven Gerrard Academy, we have a very good chef. Her name's Paula. She was from Everton, I think. And yeah, she cooks some amazing food. She knows exactly what you need and what you can't have. And yeah, it's very good.
That's good. And you find you get enough food? Because I know, like, a lot of players I know, like when I was working at, say, like Leicester City, the players, the amount of food they would eat because of the amount of calories you boys are burning because of the amount you're training, but plenty of good quality food for you to get through. So move on to the studies part, because again, this will be more so, I think, for a lot of the parents listening in who are like, I'd really love to open up this opportunity for my son or daughter, but education's paramount because in the event football doesn't work out, they need their education. And one of the big things that I always say to the parents is if football doesn't work out in 2 or 3 years' time, it might still work out in another way. Football can work out like my route. Could be coaching. It could be being sports science. It could be being physio. So we touched on it a little bit before, but just explain a little bit of like what are the studies that you've done and what's the aim in doing them studies in the event your football doesn't work out.
So I did BTEC in sports management. I did that for 2 years or 1.5 years with the academy, and I obviously also did my GCSEs in English and maths as well. And I did it because that if I don't end up making it in football, I do have something to fall back on. And yeah, and I've learnt a lot, and it's helped me. Yeah.
When you done the sports management course, that must have been so much more motivating. The fact that you're doing the sports management course, you're in Liverpool, you're training and playing like a professional. It must have just made you really engage more with the course.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Because I've done it in the past, and I remember when I was younger and I done a course at college, and I wasn't really super motivated because I didn't really know why I was doing it and what was the point in it. And it was only many years later when I done another course and I was working at a pro club and I was doing I think it was my UEFA B licence with, actually it was based at Bolton Wanderers ironically, and I was working for Leicester City at the time. And I noticed the difference then. I was super motivated to do the course because I knew the reason why I was doing it. So after you've done your sports management course now and you've done all that learning, what's your thought process? Was there anything in particular that you really liked on that side that you think, do you know what, once my football career is over, whether it's when I'm 22 or 42, is there anything that really took your eye or your fancy?
No, not really. It was just obviously the schooling's good, yeah. And obviously that if worse comes to worse, I can go down the uni path. I have enough credits to go to uni because of the BTEC sports management. But yeah.
Do you think, it's funny, I had a podcast the other day, and you're not probably thinking about not playing at the moment, but when maybe you do not play, do you ever think, I'd love to be a coach, or I'd like to be a physio, or what is it you'd like to do?
I would like to do one-on-one coaching.
One-on-one
more
coaching.
Technical side of football.
Yeah.
And yeah, I wouldn't mind doing the team coaching as well, but I'd prefer to do more technical coaching. It's
interesting you say that. There's a really big, it's not even like, I wouldn't even say it's a trend, but it's a big thing that's coming around now, especially at the Premier League and La Liga level. There's a lot of specialised coaches going into clubs, like working on throw-ins, working on corner kicks. We started to look at it in around about 2012, 2013, and we started to do positional specific training, where we'd work with a group of maybe 3 or 4 players who would say, right, I'm going to work with all the wide players today. The other coach would work with the defenders, and then we'd bring them together towards the end. But you're talking about even drilling down further again, that like one-to-one stuff, like we've actually worked together in one-to-one sessions in the past. And this is the whole reason why our professional player pathway program is so successful. You haven't really seen too much of it because you've been living the dream in the UK. But over the past 3 years, we've developed this program, which has got 7 pillars to the program. One of the pillars is GPS tracker, so all the players who are on our program wear the tracker. One's nutrition. They get a DNA test done, so they give a hair sample. We do a match analysis. The match analysis gets done by coaches in the UK. We draw out objectives, so it's really drilling down to that personal level. When we talk about that one-to-one and personal stuff, what's the difference from your experience playing at, say, Redlands United in Australia compared to being at SGA in regards to the personal and that real one-to-one
like the more technical side?
Yeah, the more technical side.
In Stephen Gerrard Academy, obviously, the coaches are ex-pros, some of them, yeah. And they know what the level is, so they're very good with their technical side. They yeah, they're sometimes strict. Obviously, you need that bit of strictness. And, yeah, they're very good on the technical side of football, which is good. And for Redlands, yeah, don't really know about that one.
Yeah, it's a hard one. It's just I love it. Like, I mean, I'm a big fan of local football here, but also, like, I always say to boys and girls and mums and dads, if you really aspire to make it at a high level, there's going to come a point where you've got to go overseas. You've got to go to Europe.
You've got to experience it.
Yeah. Just to be in that environment, to be around the better players, to be with the coaches who, a lot of the time, as you said, are ex-pros who've been there and done it and got the T-shirt, but also just even the level of coaching. Like, we've spoken about it in the past. Like, it's took me like nearly 11 years to go through all my coaching badges with UEFA. We're just going to go to our first ad break, and when we come back, we're going to be carrying on with Kai Henning and his journey into Liverpool and the Steven Gerrard Academy.
Hey everyone, we are coming around every major city in Australia over the next 12 months. We have got free objective football testing going on, guys. It's for boys and girls aged 10 all the way through to 18 years of age. The objective testing is quite simple. We'll put you through our 6 tests and it'll give you your results: physical, technical and tactical. And also, we're going to choose 16 winners to join us on an all expenses paid trip to Europe in 2024 and also 2025. Guys, what have you got to lose? Nothing. It's free to sign up. You get free objective testing and you'll get a free feedback, and maybe you'll be joining me at the Santiago Bernabeu in 2024 or 25.
Hi everyone, this is Raymond Wood back for the second part. Now, we've been chatting with Kai Henning. Kai's been working with myself and Euro Football Star for probably coming up to 4 years now. He originally went on trials with us. We've done some training with him. We got him opportunities into the UK and Europe, and he signed a contract with probably one of the biggest academies in the UK, Steven Gerrard's Academy. Now, one I want to talk to you about, because it's quite funny, especially in Australia. We get a lot of mud that gets thrown on the wall saying, oh, private academies are rubbish in the UK, and it's just a big money scam thing. But what really shocked me was about 3-4 years ago when I first went back to the UK, and I actually discovered that academies like Steven Gerrard actually compete in the National Youth League. And I'm like, what? Like, they play in the National Youth League? This is bizarre. How can they play in the National Youth League? Because surely that's only for the professional clubs. So that was a big game changer for me, because I'll be honest, I was always of that thinking as well, that going down the route of private academies, it's just a big money thing. And then I actually discovered like what Steven Gerrard Academy were doing. So can you just talk to our listeners who are listening in a little bit about the National Youth League and some of the teams that you come up against and that you have come up against?
So, yeah, the National Youth League is a very good league. We come up against teams like Bolton Wanderers. We come up against like teams of Tranmere Rovers, Leeds. We play in the 23s. We play against Chesterfield. We play a bunch of teams, which is good.
So that for me, when I first seen and heard that, I was like, wow, this changes the whole system for me, because it's a great opportunity for players who are good enough from maybe an Australian or an American or a Middle East standard, but when it comes to the UK, we know if we can drop players like you into that environment, you're going to just get better and better. And if you don't, you're going to sink. But as long as you're applying yourself and you're putting the work and effort in. But then also, for me, it was a game changer as well, as the fact that up until the age of under 23s, Steven Gerrard's Academy and some of these private academies are part of the National Youth League. It gives you an opportunity to put yourself in the shop window against the big clubs as well. Like you said it there, you've played against Leeds United. Now, I obviously keep a close eye on you and a few of the players who we've placed over there. And I've even seen you like on days where like you've gone down to Liverpool and trained at Liverpool. I mean, can you talk about some of them? What's some of the best experience you've had, like with SGA, like training at other venues and clubs, and what's some of the things you've seen?
So we've been to the Liverpool Academy. We've had Adrian, which is I think the third keeper for Liverpool. He's gone and done a training session, and we've gone over to help out and just to be around the Liverpool Academy and stuff, which is good. And
was that the academy at Kirby where the first team trained?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, not on the first team ground. It was obviously one of the pitches on the side, but yeah. And we've also got the opportunity to play at Chesterfield Stadium for the 23s, which was another amazing opportunity.
Yeah. That's so good. And that's one of the things. I think once you're there, you're in the environment, you can see the levels. All of a sudden, you can touch places like Liverpool Football Club, Manchester City. Now, in the past 12 months, we have placed a player at Liverpool Football Club as well who's gone through our programme. So it's one of the big things that we say is that, yeah, maybe your level is good enough to maybe play in a divisional team at Steven Gerrard's academy, or maybe your level's good enough to play in the top team with the under-23s, or maybe you're good enough to maybe go straight in and sign for a pro club. So talk to me and the listeners listening about when you first went into SGA. I take it you didn't go straight into the 23s team?
No, so when I first arrived there, obviously I played with obviously the boys my age, and we had the 21s and the 23s at that stage, but it took me a while to grow through the system and develop myself to get to starting for the 21s and then making every team and starting for the 23s.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you're actually now in the 23 squad. That's phenomenal. And I remember when I first went down and looked at the 23 squad a couple of years ago, and one of the parents on the tour with us commented on the level. And I said, what you've got to understand is some of these boys, and you've touched on it, have been released by Everton, Liverpool, Manchester City, Manchester United. These boys have been in the system for 10 years, playing and training at the highest level. But what I allude to is that when we get an opportunity for a player and we say, look, we've got an opportunity for you to go to SGA, it might cost you £20,000 a year for the whole year with accommodation, food and your football, but you're in the most unique opportunity ever, because not only are you going to be coached by some of the best coaches in the UK, but also you actually don't recognise that you're going to be getting coached by the players around you, because they're going to bring your levels up that high because they're of such a level. If you just sit in that environment for 2 years and work hard and rinse and repeat, you're only going to become a better football player. And you're a testament to that.
Yeah.
Because I remember, I think you was in that third or fourth team in SGA. And I remember speaking to the guys at SGA and they were so happy with you, your attitude off the park, your attitude on the park. And so you've been involved in that 23 squad now. How long have you been involved with them for?
About a year now.
About a year. So when you're playing in them 23s games and the level and the quality, how would you compare if you were to take that under 23s team from SGA and you were to bring them and put them in the MPL here, where would you compare them?
I'm not 100% sure because obviously a lot has changed since I was last year. The leagues are different now, but yeah, I'd say you can. It's up there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really up there. So in regards to you're going to head back from you're in Brisbane now for the next couple of weeks, just visiting family and friends, and you were just saying that you're helping out with Ormiston, is it?
Ormiston College.
Amazing, yeah. With their Opens team, is it?
Their first team.
First team. And you're able to train in and stuff with them and keep your fitness up?
Training, yeah. Helping them, teaching them bits and bobs that I know, that I've learnt over being there. And yeah, just helping out.
You must get a few of the boys chatting to you, asking you about like how they could maybe make it a way across and stuff and that. It must be really funny for you to go from being in that environment where you was that player many years ago, and now all of a sudden you're the boy coming back from Liverpool just on a break for a few weeks and you're going back to carry on with your pro football. So what's the aims and goals for the next 12 months? So you've got to the 23 squad. What's your target? What have you set yourself for?
So obviously I've just finished school now, so I've got a little bit more time on my hands to do maybe a little bit of extra training sessions here and there, extra gym session now, 1 or 2, But I think my next step is obviously I'm there for another year. I'm going to see, hopefully the coaches can push me for some trials, maybe not, who knows. But obviously I'm there for another year and we'll see what.
That's amazing. I think next time we get you sitting here in a year's time, you're going to have some amazing news to tell me. That's going to be super, super exciting. So we'll talk a little bit about football. So obviously when did you get back to Australia?
14th of June.
Of June. So you've been back for a little bit.
Quite a bit.
So
now.
you were watching some of the Euros?
Yes.
Yeah. What was your opinions on that? And did it all pan out the way you thought it was going to?
No.
What was you thinking?
Actually, I thought England would pull through because obviously the first few games they were rough. Had a rough start, and then they got better and better and better and better. But I have to give hats off to Spain. They were consistent throughout the whole tournament, and obviously they deserve to win. So
yeah, I think you're right. I think they got the results from the first day. They went after all the games, intention to really want and win it. I think unfortunately it was a lot of negative football. I think from Southgate and his team, and it was hard for us to watch, especially like speaking to ex-colleagues, because we were part of that project, the EPPP with the Premier League, where we were part of producing players like Jude Bellingham, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Phil Foden, and to see all of this talent that we've now developed in England, and then to play in the way they did, and they were very negative and sitting back and trying to play on the counter, was just so disappointing to see. And then seeing all that talent on the bench, and it was like those boys should have been given way more game time. Should have been, for me, if you start and you've got 50, 60 minutes to prove yourself, if you don't do anything amazing, off you go, and we got someone.
Cole Palmer is a very good example. Came on, scored straight away.
It's too little, too late with it all, and I think it's a shame. And I think my biggest fear for England now is, and it's quite controversial, but there's already rumours of talking about coaches like Howe at Newcastle and Potter, the ex-Chelsea coach, and I'm like, guys, you've got 7 or 8 of the best players on the planet in your squad. For me, you should be aiming for the highest coach on the planet to manage these players. And I think if they did that, I think not only will they win a World Cup in the USA, I think they'll go on and win a few major trophies if they were to do that. I just hope the English FA actually realise that what they've got in that squad, and they need the best coach. So for me, they should be doing everything to get Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp. They should be Ancelotti. They should be looking to get one of these big coaches and bring them in. No disrespect to Howe, no disrespect to Potter, but they haven't really won anything major in their careers. And these boys are all winners. Phil Foden, Jude Bellingham, Trent Alexander-Arnold, they've all been there. They've won the Premier Leagues, they've won the Leagues, they've won Champions Leagues already. You need a winning coach with a winning mentality. That's my belief. And someone who's going to play attacking football. Can you imagine if England were to play Brazil and went, right, we're going to go hammer and tongue at you, all out attack? Yeah, it's probably going to finish 5-3, but England will win because they'll go for it. And I think that's what we need. I think we need to see a bit of rock and roll football like Jurgen Klopp. Now, before we finish off, we've got a few minutes to go. You've been in Liverpool, obviously you've been in England. Have you been to any games over the past couple of years? Have you seen any of the Premier League?
Yes, so I've been to Bayern Munich City game. I think it was 2 years ago, last year.
In the Champions League?
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
It was a very, very good game. Very good atmosphere.
Was that at Manchester City or?
Yes, at
Was that
City.
the season they won the Champions League?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
So the atmosphere for the Champions League nights are unbelievable. Like
The Bayern fans. It weren't many Bayern fans, but they were very loud.
they were very loud.
Yeah, very loud.
And have you managed to get a game at maybe Anfield or Goodison?
No, I haven't.
Yet.
No, not yet.
Hopefully you can maybe try and do that this season. And from a club point of view, can you tell everyone who is your club team? Who's your favourite club team?
Man City.
Man City. So season this year, obviously a little bit disappointing last season, yet they won the league, but they didn't go on and win that Champions League. I think they made a bit of a mess of it again, didn't they, in the knockout stages. The final is in Germany, in Munich, at the Allianz Arena. We're going to be going in May. And depending on where you're at and with your football, we want to try and give you a special invitation to come and join us. So if you're available, I'll reach out to you.
Perfect.
And you can come and join us and be part of our media team, because we do a lot of media and content for the Champions League final. So Man City, do you think they can make it to the Allianz for the final?
I think so.
Who are they going to play in the final? Give us a prediction.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Real Madrid?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, that'll be a good game.
Again.
Yes. And I think Real Madrid with Mbappe
Yeah.
and Bellingham.
So it's a
Vinicius Jr.
scary team, that.
It's I look back at Real Madrid a couple of seasons ago when they played Liverpool in Paris in the final. I went to that one as well. I'm thinking, yeah, we're on the up, Liverpool, and we're rising, and Real Madrid are all getting old, and they've had it now, and then bang, they beat us again against the run of play, and they just know how to win. There was an interesting stat the other day. It was all the men's teams in Spain. So every men's Spanish team, whether it's Real Madrid or Barcelona, including the national team, the last 22 finals in a row, Spanish teams won. So a Spanish men's team haven't lost the final in 22 finals, and that includes Champions League, Europa League, Euros, World Cup. So over the last 22 times, whether it be a club team from Spain or the national team, they've won 22 finals in a row. No one's beaten them in the final. So if Man City play Real Madrid in the final in May, it could be the first time that they lose in 22 games. But it's going to be a big ask, especially with Mbappe in that team now as well.
Yeah, I know.
So, Kai, a big thank you for joining us on the podcast. We're going to be back this time next year. The plan is, if we can get you to Germany, we want to do a podcast with you in Germany, but also help us, and hopefully we'll have some exciting news coming out from the Kai Henning camp. So a big thank you from me.
Perfect. Thank you for having me.
And everyone at Euro Football Star. Guys, a big thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you on our next episode, and join us on our next one on the Rainbow podcast. A big thank you.